Now I can start. Okay, so we're going to talk tonight about the name of the Vaad is Elul Rejoice. Elul Rejoice. Now the thing is that's actually a strange title when you think about it.
I think more of trepidation.
Right, exactly. And the truth is, there's a very good reason for that trepidation. But what I want to get to tonight is demonstrate that there's also a tremendous place for rejoicing and for celebrating and for coming at the Yamim Noroyim with an attitude of joy and of happiness for sure. But before we get to why it's really something to rejoice about, let's start off by talking about why it's what the trepidation piece is. There's a famous Yiddish saying that in Elul the fish in Wasser zittern, that in Elul the fish in the water tremble. That's a famous Yiddish saying. If you know anybody who was who lived back in the old country, they would tell you that they heard it. I remember a resident in Louis Brier, Ralph Rosenberg. I don't know if you may have known him, but he had been a yeshiva guy, a yeshiva student in Europe, and he left very young because he had no money, and he ended up coming and ending up in I think in Edmonton for quite a long time, I believe. And he said that he remembers people it's his father telling him this line: the fish in Elul, the fish in Wasser zittern, right? And there's really good reason to be scared, for sure. In fact, I was going to mention before we started, I'd like this our learning tonight should be in the schus and the merit of both the people in the community of Houston who need our tefillos to recover, and perhaps even more so the people in Florida. I have mishpacha in Florida, in North Miami Beach, and I know they sounded very cavalier and oh yeah, no problem. Yeah, they showed us pictures about how they were taking all the silver and putting it in the dishwasher. I guess that's what they do. So it doesn't fall and get dented. I don't know, but I it seems a pretty scary situation down there. And normally when you say something is in someone's chus, someone's merit, sometimes that can be a little. Sometimes it feels a little bit just something you say, especially if it's learning that you're going to do anyway. I kind of always have the question, like if you're going to do the learning anyway, right, when you say it's in someone's merit, I mean it helps. I'm not taking away from that concept, but it's always strikes me as being slightly like after the fact, like oh yeah, we'll do this in this person's merit, which studying you are going to be doing anyway. In this case, I think it really is in their merit, because if you consider that a year ago at this time, the people of Houston and the people of Bezosh, I mean, there are people who have been in the path of the hurricane already, who've been some have been killed and serious damage has been done. All of this was decreed last year Rosh Hashanah. Right, here we are almost at next Rosh Hashanah, and all of this was decreed a year ago. Like really, like who would have ever thought the people of Houston, maybe in North Miami Beach, maybe in Florida, they're more used to hurricanes, but either one of them, that like to think that such a terrifying and tremendous incident in their lives would have happened, and here it is happening now. It was decreed last Rosh Hashanah.
I was there in December in Houston.
Yeah, this is and people have mamish lost their lives. I mean, even the people who are alive, people have lost their lives, sadly, but even the ones who are alive are have mamish lost everything that they have, and that was all decreed last year Rosh Hashanah. Rabbi Sol Salanter uses the way he says it is. He says when you come to, he's talking about Yom Kippur, but it's all the same. When you come to Yom Kippur, realize that every year young people die. Right? There's not a year that goes by that there are not terrible tragedies that happen. Things that are not that are outside of the realm of normal, really, really difficult, terrible things. And it's I say it's in the schus of the people who are going through this now. If we can take that to heart a little bit, and it helps us to inspire us a little bit, that the picture that, hey, this is something that can really happen. This is not just something which is in our imagination. Out of the blue, something happens. You see it. We see it happening in front of us, or at least on TV or the internet or whatever. It really is in that schus. If we can be inspired by it. The Mesilas Yesharim, when he's talking about the concept of come in, the Mesilas Yesharim, when he's talking about the concept of zihirus, of learning to be vigilant, learning to be careful about our actions. Small group tonight, huh?
Anyone wants?
Huh?
I got a lot of tricks in the bag.
Okay, fantastic. We'll save it for. Let's have some now. We'll save it next time. The Mesilas Yesharim says that a person needs to think about the fact that we have that Hashem judges us for what we do, and judges for what we do right and what we do wrong, and he says that the way that for the average person, this type of thinking about schar and onesh, about punishment and reward, he says, when you see the depths of judgment, how far it goes. The truth is, a person should really always be trembling and afraid. Because the truth is, who really can stand up on the day of judgment? Who can really say that we've done everything that is our responsibility? Mm-hmm. These are very strong and difficult words, but it's true. Who can really say that I've done everything that I'm supposed to do, or even close? Mi yitzdak livnei boro. Who could possibly say that I have, I've lived up to I'm righteous in the eyes of my Creator? Ba'asher hashkafaso medakdekes akol davar katan o gadol. When we consider that Hashem's view is carefully watching every little thing that we do, every small and every big thing that we do, Hashem is watching. So if Hashem is watching all of these things, then who could possibly say that I am I'm good. I'm going into Rosh Hashanah. He's not even talking Rosh Hashanah. He's talking about just on a regular daily basis. Right. But certainly when we come now before Rosh Hashanah, who can possibly say that I'm good. I'm there's nothing to worry about. I'm okay. No one could possibly say that. And he goes on to bring numerous examples of how even our great Gedolim, people whose names you've probably heard, like Avraham Avinu, Yaakov Avinu, goes on to Yosef and David HaMelech. All of these people, we find examples where for minor, what seem like minor infractions, they're taken very seriously to task, right? Things that seem like they're minor, and they're punished extremely severely. Yeah, Avram Avinu says, Hashem, how do I know that I'm going to that my children are going to get the land of Israel? And Hashem says, Chayecha yadoa teda ki ger yezaracha. Hashem says back to him, by your life, you should know your children are going to be punished. They're going to spend 400 years in Gullus because of this one little question that Avraham Avinu asked. Yaakov Avinu, when Rachel comes and berates him and says, why haven't you made it that I have children? They had children already. Rachel was in a lot of pain, and Rachel comes to Yaakov, Hava livanim, give me children, as if it's in Yaakov's control. It's not in Yaakov's control. But she's blaming Yaakov. It's your fault. You haven't done enough. You haven't tried enough. You haven't davened enough for me. It's your fault. And Yaakov says back that he says, "What am I in the place of Hashem?" And she's severely Yaakov is severely punished for this. Hashem says, the Medrash says that kach onin es hamu'uko. So is that how you respond to people who are in pain? Chayecha shabanecha ondim lifnei b'na. your children will stand in front of her children. Which means all of the other Shvatim, all the other children of Yaakov stood in front of Yosef, and that was a little bit of a punishment for what Yaakov had done, mistreating Rachel in that way. I don't fully understand what that means because Yosef is also Yaakov's child, but I don't fully understand that. But putting that aside, like, what did Yaakov do? She berated him. She came at him in anger. She herself, knows better than to say that accuse Yaakov of not trying hard enough to make sure that she would have a child. When she's basically accusing Yaakov for no reason. Yaakov speaks more strongly than he otherwise should have, and the punishment is so
defensive.
Yeah, okay, and the punishment is extremely severe. When we start thinking about that,
you and I, being husbands, know that if your wife comes to you in pain, in anguish, even if logically what she's saying isn't necessarily completely justified,
yes,
the only answer to her is
okay. I tell you, as a husband, maybe know that. Me, I make that mistake all the time. It's not so easy. Come on,
it's hard. I know.
It's not so easy. Yes, we know.
I've learned by experience.
Listen, Yaakov is taken to task because he should have known better, and probably most of the time he did know better, right? But the point is that for a minor momentary lapse, right? Mm-hmm. Yaakov Avinu, this great tzaddik, who has this minor momentary lapse in his derech eretz towards his wife who's in pain, is punished so severely. And he goes on with examples upon examples of how we know that people are punished extremely severely for what otherwise seem like relatively minor things. Now, if that's the case, then if that's maybe I told people it was 9:30. I don't think so. If that's the case, then how much more so do we have to be concerned? The Mesilas Yesharim says, like, how much more so do we have to recognize that that we do things wrong all the time? We do things wrong all the time, and Hashem never ever lets anything go. And what that means is that he points out it doesn't mean that you're punished the same for a major infraction as a minor infraction, or same for minor as major. But at the same time, what it means is that Hashem doesn't let anything go, right? At the same moment that we are involved in, I don't know, someone could be doing all sorts of great mitzvos, and in the middle of that you do one little minor avera, that also goes on the record, right? It has to be dealt with. Every little minor avera has to be dealt with. The Gemara says anyone who says that Hashem just lets things slide, it works better in the Aramaic. It says Yivasru ma'o. Kol ha'omer HaKadosh Baruch Hu vatranhu. Anyone who says Hashem lets things go, Yivasru ma'ohi. His life will be let go. In other words, that is absolutely antithetical to our understanding of how Hashem deals with us. Hashem deals with us very carefully. Kel emunah ve'ein avel. The pasuk says in Parshas Hazinu. Kel emunah, Hashem is a God of faithfulness. Ve'ein avel, and there is no flaw. In no way is Hashem flawed. Everything is done exactly perfectly, which means He can't let anything go. Every little thing that we do, Hashem takes note of, and eventually you're going to have to be judged. We're going to be judged for it. Hashem cannot let anything go. So that means, as we come before Rosh Hashanah, there's a whole lot of good reason for us to be scared. It makes sense. There's a lot for us to be scared about. Trepidation, we started off talking about the fact that, Elul generally is a feeling of trepidation. I'm not here to tell you that feeling of trepidation is not well placed. However, a couple of things I want to point out. Where should I go? I'm sorry, I have a bunch of things written down here. Okay. The month of Elul, everybody knows, right? This month leading up to Rosh Hashanah, the letters of Elul, everyone knows. Elul is Ani L'Dodi, B'Dodi Li. right? Hashem, I am to my beloved, to Hashem, and Hashem is to me. So that's a pretty interesting thing for us to be thinking about when we come into a time of trepidation, to be saying we have this tremendous love. If we think about a moment when we are when we're scared of someone, we don't generally think of that as being a time when we're feeling a whole lot of loving connection here, and yet that our Chazal, our rabbis, are telling us that the month of Elul is a time of tremendous connection. And I think the idea is that there's a point to all of this. Hashem is not really interested in us being punished. That's not really what Hashem wants, right? That we're going to say it on. We'll say it on Rosh Hashanah and on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, right? Kilo yachpotz b'mos hames. Hashem does not want people to die. Meaning, for people to be punished. That's not what Hashem is interested in. Hashem is not here to try and have us be punished. The purpose of this entire thing is for us to be able to use this as an opportunity to get closer to Hashem. Use it as an opportunity for us to get better, so that in the Haftorah of a fast day, we'll say it on Tzom Gedalia, and after a fast day, we say, Dirshu Hashem b'himatz'o, kra'u b'yoso karov. Seek out Hashem when He is able to be found. Call out to Him when He is close. The Gemara says, what is the time when Hashem is close, when He's able to be found? The Gemara says, that's the Aseret Yemei Tshuva. That's the 10 days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Not Elul. No, not necessarily Elul, but I think Elul is a traditional extension of those days. But specifically and particularly during the Aseret Yemei Tshuva. And that tells us, here's what Hashem says: I'm going to judge you. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be watching to make sure and look at every action that you've done and decide what's going to happen to you. But I'm not doing that from a position of trying to make things difficult for you. Quite the opposite, I would say. I'm coming from the angle of wanting to give you the opportunity to get better, and that's really what Elul and the Yomim Noraim, the high holidays, are really all about. The days of awe are really about the fact that Hashem is really is so close to us. I don't know about you. I've always found that during Elul things seem to get easier for me. I don't know. I found this for years. I find during Elul just things get easier. Now it doesn't stay that way, unfortunately. It gets a lot easier during Elul, and then it seems to get a little harder. Once you get after Yom Kippur.
In what aspect? In all aspects?
Well, in a lot of aspects. Certainly in my avodas Hashem, in my service of Hashem, I find that things get much easier during Elul. I do. I found this for years and years and years. Almost every year, probably every single year.
For me, it's getting harder to wake up very early
For Slichot.
I still can't adjust. It's very hard.
I hear you. Well, you're the only Sephardi in the room, so I can't totally.
I'm thinking of
come to his lunchtime.
Yeah. You know what the rule is. If you give up Slichot during the whole month of Elul, then you have to give up the rice on Pesach.
I don't eat rice.
Oh, okay. In that case, I'm not sure why you're getting up so early.
When I was in yeshiva, I was me and another guy were the only Sephardi guys.
Yeah.
My whole yeshiva was Ashkenazi. So we all those guys, we used to wake up very early to make we did it for a week. I said, no, you know what? We're Ashkenazi. We just make
But the point of the whole exercise, and whether it's, I have a hard time picturing getting up early every day for 40 days straight, essentially, right, from Elul all the way through till Yom Kippur. I have a hard time picturing it, but the point is to recognize the opportunity that Hashem is giving us here, and he makes it easier for us. Anila dodiva dodili, I'm here for you. I heard a story I was listening to a shir just yesterday from Rabbi Herschel Welcher, who's a rabbi in Queens. And he told a story that I've never heard before. He said that one of the Slonim Rebbes told over about himself that he had a dream that he had slept through all of Elul, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, and he woke up after Simchas Torah, like he had just slept through it, and he woke up in a panic. He was, it's Erev Rosh Chodesh Elul, I'm okay, right? But he told about himself, like, he this dream that he had was like this panic of missing out on the opportunity. I think many of us feel very differently. Many of us feel like if I could only fall asleep from Elul all the way through until, maybe Sukkot we'd like to be awake for, but if I had to give up Sukkot, give up the, but the Slonim Rebbe was saying was that the tremendous opportunity that we have here, tremendous opportunity Hashem gives us to be closer to us in order for us to be able to get better. It's a tremendous opportunity, and Hashem is the entire process of judgment is completely laced with rachamim, with mercy, from beginning to end. And I'll show you. And some of you may have heard this from me before, but it's a powerful thought that's worth thinking about every year. The Rabbi Yisrael Salanter says, actually, it's a Gemara. The Gemara says that you're not allowed to wear gold. The Kohen Gadol doesn't wear gold into the Kodesh HaKadoshim, the Gemara says. And the reason is because gold represents, or has a connotation of the golden calf. And we say, Ein kateger nasa saneger. We say that the prosecuting attorney cannot become the defense attorney. So it's inappropriate to wear gold into the Kodesh HaKadoshim. So the Gemara asks, well, what do we wear gold in the Beis Hamikdash? He wears gold, and even on Yom Kippur, the Kohen Gadol wears gold at other times. It's only in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, not outside. Not outside. So the Gemara asks a question. Okay, are you allowed to use the horn of a cow as a shofar? The Gemara says you're not allowed to use the horn of a cow as a shofar because ein kateger nasa saneger. Because the cow, again, golden calf, that same connotation. So if we can't use it as a shofar. So the Gemara asks, 1 second, you just told me that the only time we say the rule of ein kateger nasa saneger, that the prosecuting attorney can't become the defense attorney, is only in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. The shofar is not blown in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. The shofar is blown out in everywhere, whatever. Out in the, even in the Beis Hamikdash and other places. What does that have to do with why can't you use the horn of a cow? So the Gemara says, Kevan dil zikaron asi, since the purpose is for remembrance, which is ultimately for judgment, kilifnim dami. It's as if you are. You are standing in the Kodesh Hakadoshim. It's as if you are the Kohen Gadol standing in. Picture yourself, and it's a worthwhile picture to have. I know we have at least one shofar blower here, but not just for the shofar blower, but for the people who are listening to the shofar as well. It's a worthwhile picture, and this is why I've certainly said this over before. That we have to picture that when we are hearing the shofar, it's as if we're standing in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. That's what the Gemara says. Okay, that's the Gemara. It's a worthwhile picture for us to have. Rabbi Yisrael Salanter takes it sort of literally. He says that this is the moment when Hashem judges us. That's what the Gemara means. That the moment that the shofar is being blown is the moment that Hashem judges us. If we're standing in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, that's the moment that Hashem is actually judging us. The moment of judgment happens when you blow the shofar. Yeah.
This is the shofar of
Rosh Hashanah.
Not Elul shofar.
No. The shofar of Elul is a reminder that Rosh Hashanah is coming.
Okay.
It means the shofar on Rosh Hashanah, the day of judgment, that's when we're being judged. When the shofar is being blown, that's when we're being judged. Now, I can't fully explain that with the fact that we have a lot of davening that goes on. That's not only when the shofar is being blown. I can't fully explain how the system works, but I trust Rabbi Yisrael Salanter when he tells me that the moment the shofar is being blown is the moment of judgment. So, listen to this. I had this insight a number of years ago, and I think I've always found it very moving. The point of the shofar is, at least partially, a big part of it is because it arouses Hashem's rachamim, arouses Hashem's mercy, in a couple of different ways, right? We are declaring Hashem as our king with the shofar. That, of course, is a means of bringing us closer to Hashem. It is a means of waking us up. It's a wake-up call for us to feel that hey, there's scary stuff going on over here. be, like have a broken heart when he's standing in front of Hashem. It reminds Hashem of, so to speak, of the merit of Akedas Yitzchak. There's another one. All these reasons why the shofar is something which has the power of arousing Hashem's mercy. And listen what Hashem says. It says, I'm going to give you a mitzvah. You have to blow the shofar. Not you can if you want to. Hashem didn't say, thou shalt blow the shofar if you like. Right? If you want to, you can. And I would suggest you do it because it's a good idea. Hashem gave us a mitzvah. He says we have to. Hashem insists that we do it. And Hashem says, I'm going to judge you on Rosh Hashanah. So I'm telling you when I'm going to judge you. So you can get ready. Not only am I telling you when I'm going to judge you, what day I'm going to judge you, I'm also telling you what time I'm going to judge you. And I'm not only telling you what time I'm going to judge you, Hashem actually says, listen, you tell me when you want me to judge you. You want to blow the shofar at 6 o'clock in the morning? I'll blow it then, fine. I'll judge you then. You want to blow the shofar at 4 o'clock in the afternoon? I'll judge you then. Hashem says, whenever you choose to blow the shofar, that's when I'm going to judge you. It's mind-boggling. Like, could you imagine if the police said to you, listen, we're coming to raid your house because we heard there's a grow up in your basement. We're gonna come and raid your house, but we're gonna come on September 12th. And what time would you like us to come? Like, come on September 12th. What time works for you? It's like, can you imagine? Like Hashem says, here's the day I'm gonna do it. Here's the time. Here's the time, and really the time is the time that you tell me to. And by the way, the announcement to me that I should judge you, Hashem says that I should judge you, is at the moment that you're doing the thing which makes me the most merciful that I could possibly be at that moment, which I've given you a mitzvah to do, that you're required to do it. Hashem wants us. Hashem is telling us there's a message here. I don't imagine Hashem using these words. I'm dying to be merciful to you. That's all. That's really all I want. Hashem says is to be ultimately merciful to you, and I'm giving you the tools to make it that your judgment is going to go well. As long as and when you look at it from that perspective, you realize Hashem is not out to get us. Hashem is not here to say that which the trepidation piece, which is, again, it's real. I'm not taking away from that. That fear, Hashem is not here to say be afraid and I'm out to get you. Hashem is saying be afraid, and that way everything's going to work out okay. That's how things are going to work out okay if you prepare yourself properly. You have the opportunity, and that's why we have a whole month of Elul. Anila dodi v'dodi li. Hashem says, I'm here with you. I'm right with you. I'm going to carry you along. I'm going to give you the opportunity as long as you use the time properly. There's all sorts of things you can accomplish, which tells us exactly what the purpose of this whole thing is. The purpose is for us to get better. And the purpose is the mashal I often use. A few years ago, and I understand they have these. Steve, I know you've heard this from me before. Maybe some of the other of you have as well. A few years ago, I drove down to. I've done this a couple times. Driven down to California, and when you drive through the mountains, in going down into in a couple of places on I-5, there's this wonderful tool called the runaway truck ramp. I guess they have it going across Canada also. Yeah. So runaway truck ramp. What's a runaway truck ramp? That if the brakes fail on a truck, then the truck can turn off. It going down a mountain, the brakes fail. I guess this happens not infrequently, or not infrequently enough. You can veer off onto this ramp, and it takes you up, and the gravity stops you, right? Runaway truck ramp to stop you, and so I feel like Rosh Hashanah is our runaway truck ramp, right? Sometimes we're barreling
Rosh
so.
Hashanah or Elul?
Well, the whole thing. Elul is.
Rosh Hashanah game over by then.
No, definitely not. The game's never over. I'll tell you a secret. The game's never over. But Rosh Hashanah, the game is certainly not over. That's why we have a Yom Kippur.
The police are coming to raid at 12 o'clock. They've given us been that nice enough. But
However, Hashem says, I'm going to judge you, but the final judgment doesn't happen until Yom Kippur.
And then something else,
Yeah, the ink's not even dry. You have to blot it, right?
Yeah, and then you have to wait until after
So
right,
that's
right, yeah,
also
listen,
true.
if you ask the Hasidim, the final judgment is on the last day of Hanukkah. That's but okay, I don't want to make I don't fully understand all that stuff. But it's definitely true that until Yom Kippur, right, that's where we have a Day of Atonement, right? Because to atone for our errors, so we should end up having a better year. Right, so until Yom Kippur, for sure.
Between the Aseres Yemei Tshuva and Elul, if you could summarize it in one word or sentence, whatever, the difference in the avodah that we should have.
I don't think there's a significant
difference. Just a heightened intensity. Or is it the
that's
same
right.
Thing?
It's all steps of intensity. It's steps of intensity, right? Elul is a means of preparing ourselves, because if you go into the Aseres Yemei Tshuva and say, okay, I'm ready to do tshuva, here I go. It's hard to get started when you wait until Rosh Hashanah. Although the truth is, Rosh Hashanah itself, that's another aspect of the gift of Rosh Hashanah. I mean, it's all over the place. Throughout this entire period, you see constantly how much of a gift Hashem has given us. Why is Rosh Hashanah before Yom Kippur? Famous question. Why is Rosh Hashanah before Yom Kippur?
Yeah.
Rosh Hashanah is the day of judgment. Yom Kippur is the day of atonement. Should be the other way around. Should be Yom Kippur first. Have a day of atonement. Get rid of all your averos, and then get judged. So the Bali Mussar say that the reason is because if we just went straight into Yom Kippur, we wouldn't be ready for it. You have to have a Rosh Hashanah first to get yourself ready to have a proper Yom Kippur. And it's worth it for us to have this day of judgment, which then doesn't really get sealed finally until Yom Kippur, and there's room for us to be able to do tshuva until Yom Kippur for sure, at least. But the reason why we have Rosh Hashanah first is a gift. Because Hashem says, I want you to have this day of these days of being of judgment, so that you should prepare yourself and get closer. And Be'ez Hashem, we're going to talk next week about what Rosh Hashanah is really all about, the real deep meaning of what Rosh Hashanah is specifically supposed to be. Because I think most people don't know. I didn't know until fairly recently. But the basic idea for sure is that here's this day of getting ourselves ready to go into the Aseres Yemei Tshuva and go, which takes us to Yom Kippur, and so it is ascending. It's ascending levels of getting better, of improving. That's of getting ourselves ready to get better. There's a at the same time, again, I don't want to take away from the two sides of the coin. You need both of them. There's a story of that Rav Shach, Zichrono Livracha. Rav Shach was, of course, the Rosh Yeshiva of the Panovich Yeshiva and the one of the Gedolei Hador. Rav Shach wrote. He actually said at the in his eulogy for the Brisker Rav, who was a Gadol Hador previous to Rav Shach. He said in his eulogy for the Brisker Rav, he said he once came into the Brisker Rav before Rosh Hashanah. And he saw him. He was trembling with fear so much. He couldn't move. He was just in a panic, like literally, like just trembling and like real fear, like afraid that someone was going to do something really, really bad to him. Like that kind of fear. And Rav Shach said to him, we're supposed to have bitachon, supposed to have faith that Hashem is going to help us. Hashem is going to perform miracles for us. The Torah says that we go into Rosh Hashanah, we dress nicely because we have faith. Hashem is going to perform a miracle for us. So he says, don't you know Hashem's going to perform a miracle for us? So being afraid like this doesn't make sense. And the Brisker Rav responded that you're supposed to have bitachon, but having faith means that you know there's something that you need to have faith for. Right? If you just say, well, Hashem will do a miracle, if you never have the moment where you're afraid, then you're not really having bitachon. Real bitachon that Hashem is going to perform a miracle means you recognize the fact that I need a miracle. And if you recognize the fact that you need a miracle, then you're not really truly afraid, right? You're really in that. To take us back to the hurricane for a second, which we started with that. Imagine I read about the Chabad Shliach in St. Martin's, who rode out the hurricane in his not in his house because his house was not strong enough. He went to the Chabad house You saw this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The mikveh, right?
Huh? Yeah, he ended up in the mikveh room because it was the most internal room, and even there it had no windows. And even there, and the building itself was like built into is built into the side of a mountain. But even there is like the door of the mikveh room itself inside the house was shaking from the wind. I was like, imagine the tremendous fear. Do you hope? Do you hope and pray and think? Yes, I have bitachon. Hashem's going to save me. Yes, you do. But first, you're really, really afraid, right? So I'm not. I can't imagine how afraid the Brisker Rav must have been or must have appeared if Rav Shach had the audacity to say to him, "Don't be afraid. It's okay. It's going to be okay." I can't imagine I can't imagine how. I mean, he must have been just looking like he just was totally gonna fall apart. I can't imagine how what he must have looked like. But the Brisker Rav said back, the first thing is you have to be afraid. Then we can have bitachon, we can have faith that Hashem is going to perform miracles for us. That fear takes us to the drive, gives us the motivation to try to do things better. That's what it really comes down to. And again, we're going to talk more about this as we get closer to Rosh Hashanah, and we'll talk about it before Yom Kippur. That we ultimately need to use this dual motivation of the fear with the fact that I see what Hashem wants me to do with it. Hashem wants me to use this productively. He does not want me ultimately to be sitting in the corner just crying in fear, crying maybe, but crying in fear in a panic, unable to think. That's not where Hashem wants me ultimately to be. He wants me to be using this productively, to be able to be judged well and have a year which is where we have all good things that are decided for us, as opposed to chas v'shalom, the negative things that could potentially happen. That's what Hashem wants us to do with this. Focus on the fear, but ultimately there's the opportunity is so tremendous that's why I say the Elul, rejoice, because Hashem is right here with us, saying yes, you should be afraid, and use that as a tool to be able to do better. That's what this time is all about. Now we're already, Elul runs away before you know it. It's already tonight's the 18th, the 17th. We're more than halfway through Elul, and Rosh Hashanah is going to be on us before we know it. 2 weeks from tonight, the Doraisa day of Rosh Hashanah will already be over. Right? We have a second day of Rosh Hashanah. Hashem gave us a great gift. There's 2 days of Rosh Hashanah. So that's good. But the Doraisa day of Rosh Hashanah is already going to be over 2 weeks from tonight. So what we really have to spend some time thinking about how we're going to use this time. It's not 2 weeks till Rosh Hashanah, and then we have another week after that until Yom Kippur. I mean, there's still plenty of time left, but we really have to think about how are we gonna use it? What are we gonna do with it? How are we going to improve? And I always tell people, and I'll stop talking after this. I always tell people that the only improvement that really works is something which is small and concrete and measurable, right? It has to be something which is not too big. You can't try to do too much. If you try to do too much, it's not going to work. It has to be concrete. It has to be very, very clear. I'm going to do this, not like I'm going to be better. Right? If you say I'm going to be better, I'm going to speak less Lashon Hara. I mean, it's a nice idea to try to speak less Lashon Hara, but if you don't know exactly what it is that you're trying to do, you won't know that you're doing right. It has to be small, it has to be concrete, and it has to be measurable. You have to be able to look back and say, oh yeah, I've been doing it for the last 3 weeks, and that itself is a motivation to keep you going. But that's in terms of what type of improvement we're ultimately going to do. But for the next 3 weeks, we really have to be on our best behavior. We really have to be trying to get the most out of it. Hashem is here with us. We have the opportunity to get really close to Him if we take it. Questions, thoughts?
The trepidation and the love seem to me to go hand in hand, because if you're close with somebody, like everything matters
If you're
Like-
close with someone,
in a relationship.
mm-hmm.
Everything you do to them, for them, about them, around them, actually matters. The little things matter, the big things matter, everything matters. And that's scary because it's hard to be on all the time.
Right.
And it's scary because it makes for a sort of intimacy of like everything matters, like everything you're doing, everything you're thinking, everything you're not doing. But it also is indicative of a tremendous closeness.
That's
I-
the reason why Hashem is
Closeness.
closeness.
Yeah, because if it didn't matter, if Hashem didn't care, you wouldn't have that sort of relationship.
Right. Well,
He didn't let us get close to him.
we
We don't care, so don't
Right,
come to him,
exactly.
don't go to him.
it's I heard Roy Welcher say last night that with every great opportunity comes great responsibility. That's how it tends to be. Right? If you have a great opportunity at work, it means that you have greater responsibility. You're not making more money without having greater responsibility. That's how it works, right? Every time you have opportunity, there is the greater the possible reward is the greater risk, right? And that's what life is as a human being, certainly as a Jew. That's what this time is like also, because the opportunities are so tremendous, right? It's like it's almost like we're going into the king's palace, right? When you're going into the king's palace, you have the opportunity to ask Hashem to ask the king for what you need. You're going to have his ear. But when you're in the king's palace, you have to be really careful about how you conduct yourself, right? If you when you're in the king's palace, and we don't really have we have a hard time relating to this because in modern times, it's not really like this anymore. But in terms of our relationship with Hashem, we have to think about you're standing in front of the king for real. Like you're not like slouching, right? You're sitting in front of the king. You're in front of the king. This is serious. And the reason is because you have to be not to act with anything less than the utmost of respect. It's one thing when you're outside in the palace courtyard. When you're inside the throne room, you have to be that much more. The level of respect you need to have is greater. You have the king's ear, but on the other hand, if you do a minor thing wrong, you could be severely punished. I mean, I think that's what happened with, as we talked about earlier, that's what happens with Abraham and Yaakov and Yosef, all these people who we find doing these minor things and being severely punished because they're so much closer to Hashem. When you're so much closer to Hashem, you are that's great. But the
Responsibility is higher.
the what?
The
Responsibility is
higher.
higher.
The punishment is higher.
Right, so that it works out fairly. At this in these days, we have this tremendous responsibility and this tremendous opportunity.
So
Right.
a guy once asked me, I have no answer. He asked me that the closer you get to God, like Moshe, for example, Moshe Rabbeinu,
Mm-hmm.
he got a huge punishment under what we think is a small thing, right? But for him, because he was closer to Hashem,
Right.
it was a big deal.
Right.
So the guy said, "Why should I get closer to Hashem? The closer I get, the big punishment I get, right?" So I have a, I don't know. I told you one of these guys that I took class.
Right.
He gave me with this crazy ask. I'm like, yeah, I have no idea what I don't want to tell you. I have
It's
to think about it.
a great question.
Yeah.
It's a great question. The answer is very simple. There's nothing more important than that. There's nothing more important than being close to Hashem. So the fact that there's a potential punishment for that just speaks to how much we've gotten by getting there, by everything that we've. The fact that if you're an close intimate friend with the king, everything you get for all the time that you're an intimate friend of the king is worth everything. And the fact that if you do something wrong, that means you have to be more severely punished. Okay, but I've got all this. I've got the reward that I get does not go anywhere, and the benefit that I get of being close to Hashem, it's worth it. The reason all that punishment does is make it that there's a kapara, there's an atonement for what I did.
As
And
long as you do things right, you will not get punished.
listen, there's no avoiding punishment because nobody's perfect, right? Ain't sadik baratz asher yaseh tov lo yechata. There's no such thing. Everybody.
I don't know personally. I don't know somebody that says, you know what, I'm gonna make an averah. You know, I don't know somebody like that. Well, we make averot without like not on purpose.
Right.
Huh?
It's inadvertent.
Yeah, correct. So that I mean, I for sure you get a punish, but I don't think you're gonna severe punish.
I don't know. I've done a lot of averos on purpose.
Really?
I have.
What? Like, yeah, I'm gonna.
You want me to tell you? I mean,
No, I just want to imagine kind of an
well,
averah.
I guess what I mean to say is I've done lots of averos at times. I think everybody does. Where like I know this is wrong, but I'm just pulled to do it anyway. Okay, I don't think too many of us do it because like Hashem told me no, and therefore I'm gonna go against Hashem. We're not, they don't make wicked people like they used to. They don't make Rishaim like they used to. So I don't think there's too many people alive today who, because we don't have a great enough understanding of Hashem to care enough to rebel against Him. I'm not rebelling against Him, but there's lots of times where it's like I know this is wrong. But I'm gonna do it anyway. You know what? I know it's wrong. I just don't care right now. That's part of. I don't care. Well, okay, yeah, fine.
Yeah,
but
enough.
I don't care enough. Fine.
But that's because you didn't study Mesilas Yesharim that morning.
I unfortunately, even on the days that I studied Mesilas Yesharim that morning, I still do Averis in the afternoon or 5 minutes later. I mean, I think I'm on a basic, as we all are trying to be, as I think we all are, basic trajectory of trying to be better today than I was yesterday, or at least better at the end of this year than I was at the beginning of this year, or at least better at the end of my life than I was when I started, right? It's not a straight line, right? There's always ups and downs, and some years are going to be better and some years are going to be worse. Some days for sure are going to be better and worse, but I think even some years, right? There's some years when overall, like we may end up at the end of the year, I'm actually worse than I was when I started. I think that's also part of being human. Right? Hashem gave us the whole system, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur and Tshuva, because people do Averos. We are like that. That's Hashem made us with that in mind. Hashem made us with the fact that Ein Tzadik Ba'aretz Asher Yaseh Tov Lo Yechata. There's no such thing as a person doesn't do Averos. We do Averos, and now we have the opportunity to try to make the best of it. And I'll. I mean, I know I could go on forever, but the Gemara says, "B'makom shabali tshuva omdin, ein tzadikim gemurim yichon lamod." That in a place that a bal tshuva stands, even a perfect tzaddik who's never sinned can't get there, can't get to where a bal tshuva is. I mean, it's because when we do something wrong, it's an opportunity. We have the opportunity to use that wrong thing to catapult ourselves up to become even better, right? We have that opportunity, and that's what this is all about. Be afraid, so that we're motivated to try to be very simple fear. I don't want a hurricane to come wash away my house in the next year, right? That's a pretty or an earthquake, or anything else, or things that are expected or unexpected. I don't want these things to happen to me or my family, and because of that, that's on the most simple level. I'm motivated because of that to try to do something better. To try to be better, to use my averos as a springboard to try to be better, right? I see that I've done things wrong. I want to try to be a little bit better. Be'ez Hashem will have an opportunity to talk some more about kind of practically how to do that.
So where does teshuva come in?
What do you mean? Where does it come in?
Like in which part? Like you're saying that you've done the Aveira, but then you have to do, like the Rambam says, the tshuva is a 3-step process, right?
Well, tshuva is not a simple process.
Yeah.
We're not going to go through Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur and have really truly done tshuva on every single one of our. The Rambam says
you have to first recognize what you've done wrong, right?
That's true. and that hopefully we're able to manage that step. Hopefully, but the Rambam says that real tshuva is when Hashem can testify about you that person who did that avera, this is a new person, and that you're never going to do that sin again. There aren't too many. I don't think too many people manage to get that on too many things. On some, we manage to get some. Rabbi Saul Salanter says that someone who studies Mussar is considered in the Hebrew he's begeder osei tshuva. He's considered in the category of someone who's doing tshuva, someone who studies Mussar. And what he means by that is not. He means Mussar. It means studying. But he means a person who's awake and alive and focusing on, I want to try to be better. Learning Mussar happens to be a great way to do that. I don't know that's the only way, but the point is that we're looking internally and trying to say, hey, what can I do to be better? How can I improve? And there's, but really practically, what can I practically do to improve? And again, we'll have to talk more about that as we move on. But
my question, it's the grade 2 question again, and touching on a lot of what we've already said.